Chapter 16, which is the neural integration, autonomic nervous system and higher functions. And as we know, we have different ways to differentiate our central nervous system. We have sensory versus motor, sensory division versus motor division. We have central nervous system that contain cranial and spinal. So this is another way. The third way is depending on what type of sensation or motor command. So it can be somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system is your conscious control, your conscious level. And this is what you do voluntarily. Basically, the muscular contraction, the skeletal muscles. So somatic always go to the skeletal muscles. Autonomic is always visceral. Okay? Somatic, skeletal muscles, conscious. Visceral, viscera, unconscious. You get the difference between the two divisions? We have somatic nervous system, we have visceral or autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system, conscious for skeletal muscles. Visceral or autonomic nervous system is for the viscera and it's unconscious. Okay, what do you mean by viscera? I mean anything inside this, anything in the trunk, right? Example, do you have a say on how your heart contract? Can you speed up your heart or slow it down? Can you contract your stomach? I mean the stomach inside, can you do that? No. So this is unconscious, involuntary. Can you contract your biceps? Yes, of course, because it's skeletal muscles. So this is somatic. So these are the major differences between somatic and autonomic nervous system. So we'll focus on the autonomic nervous system now. And we talked before about the integrative centers. And the integrative centers are the highest centers for coordination. And we said we start from the basic sensations. We have general senses, we have special senses, and we have association centers. And on top of those, do you remember this pyramid? It goes like this. These are the basic sensations. Okay? And then you have association areas that come with each one of those. And then you have integrative areas. And then you have the general integrative area. Looks like a pyramid. Right? So this is the level. Start from the lowest level, which is the basic sensation. Go to the association areas to interpret what you're receiving, and then integrative area will integrate between these different association areas, and then the general integrative area coordinate everything. Okay? So if we say that the integrative centers for the somatic nervous system was in the brain, okay, in the cerebral cortex and the cerebrum, the integrative center for the autonomic nervous system is in the hypothalamus. The integrative centers are located in the hypothalamus. And this is like the upper motor neuron in the somatic. Okay, autonomic nervous system can be sympathetic or parasympathetic. The theme to remember this: sympathetic versus parasympathetic. If you imagine what I'm talking about right now, you can imagine what will happen during sympathetic. You can answer any questions, just think about it. The sympathetic is fight, fright, flight. Let's say you're fighting. Okay? What will happen to your body during the fight? This will be the sympathetic. Parasympathetic is rest, digest. What do you think happened to your body if you're resting and digesting? You're sitting down, digesting, eating. What will happen to your body? So even without going in details, if I ask you during your fight, do you concentrate more or less? More. Do you think your heart rate increase or decrease? Increase. Common sense, right? How about respiratory rate? Does it increase or decrease? Increase. How about your eye pupil? Does it dilate to see more or constrict? Dilate, right? How about your muscles, skeletal muscles? Is it going to be active more or less? You're fighting, right? So during the fight, you either will fight back or run, right? Depending on the situation. But you need your muscles anyway, right? So you need to send more blood to the muscles. You need to send more energy to the muscles, right? This is the part that you need the most during that time. Okay? So muscular abilities, you will be more alert. Okay, you need more concentration, breathe more, heart rate increase, and so on. So do you think you can figure it out even without studying? Just imagine yourself in the middle of the fight and think about it. What would happen? Do you sweat more or less? More. What happened to your saliva during the fight, or if you're frightened? Do we hear, my mouth was dry. I was so frightened that my mouth is dry. Do you hear something like this? If you are in the you didn't fight before.
You did? You had a couple of fights?
Yeah, of course.
No.
Teenage. Huh?
I did, but my tongue didn't get dry.
Didn't get dry? Okay. Maybe you used your parasympathetic at this time. Yes, but normally it is, you get dry, okay? If you're frightened, maybe you didn't notice it before, but if you're like anxious or waiting for the results of exam, or you're frightened from something, notice it. You will see your mouth become more dry. Because you don't, basically think about it. Do you need your saliva during the fight? Why do you need the saliva for? Do you use the saliva to fight? The saliva is to lubricate the mouth and to digest. Do you need to digest during the fight? Okay, think about it also from this point. If you are in the middle of the fight, should you divert your blood toward your digestive system to digest the food, and send the blood more to the urinary system so you make more urine in the middle of the fight? And like in the middle of the fight, just give me 1 minute. I have to run, go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Do you do that? No. Of course not. You do the opposite, right? I'm in the middle of the fight. Is this is the time to make urine and go to the bathroom? No. Is it the time to digest and go to the bathroom? No. How about the reproductive function? Is that the time? Just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. I don't think so, right? You suppress your reproductive function, right? Sexual arousal. I don't think it's the time at all, right? Somebody's beating you up, but yesterday I was, right? So obviously not.
This is why I'm taking your class.
So this is obviously, it's just common sense, right? Think about it. Is it the right time? No. You're in the middle of the fight. You don't have time for all these minor things, right? Exactly the opposite when it comes to the parasympathetic. If you are parasympathetic, meaning you're resting, digesting, do your heart rate goes fast? Why? Right? You're relaxing. Do you breathe more, like you're sitting down, watching TV and relaxing? Do you do this? Of course not. Your breathing, your respiratory rate goes down. Do you focus and dilate your eye pupil to see the food more? Instead of missing rice or something you're eating. Do you need that? Of course not. You dilate because you're expecting somebody's fighting you, right? Somebody's going to hit you. So you dilate so you can see more, right? But if you're eating, do you really need to concentrate so much to eat? No. Respiratory rate goes down. Pupil, dilate or constrict during rest, digest? Constrict. Do you need to dilate your eye? What is so important to actively dilate your eye? There is nothing important. How about the urinary system? Is that the right time? Yes, you send more blood to the urinary system. Yes, this is the time that you make urine. You can go to the bathroom. Yes. How about digestive function, digestive tract? Do you stimulate your digestive tract or inhibit? Stimulate or inhibit if you're resting, digesting, stimulate your digestive tract, right? Yeah, this is the right time. So actually, do you sweat while you're relaxing? No. Do you need your saliva if you're eating? Yes. Does it make sense? So everything about sympathetic and parasympathetic actually makes sense. If you just think about it, it's all common sense. So sympathetic is fight, fright, flight, which is basically emergency, stress, fighting, while the parasympathetic is rest, digest. The third part is called enteric nervous system, and this is a third system that's the minor one. We're not going to focus much on it, and this is basically what's controlling your intestine. It's a local control of your digestive tract. The sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, they work independently. So sympathetic has its own pathway and its own function. The parasympathetic has its own pathway and its function, but they coordinate together. Okay, how? Something like your heart. You can speed up and you can slow down, right? What happened if you, I don't know if you guys did that or not. When I was in the first year medical school, we used to dissect a frog and a rabbit, and we take the heart out. Did you do something like that, general biology or something? When we do that, we insert some needles and do graphs to tell us if the heart's still working or not. And even if we take the heart out of the frog or something, it still beats for some time. Outside of the body, not connected to anything. Still beats, still contract for some time, and then start to slow down and then die. When the heart's run out of energy. So what's the point here? The point is the heart is working automatically through the what's the SA node give you the basic rhythm, right? So the SA node will have a fixed rate. If it is outside of the body, this is what we noticed in the lab, it will contract, let's say, 60 times per minute. It's not increasing, it's not decreasing. It will stay 60. It can't even be 61 or anything else, just 60 until the heart dies. That's not the case in our body. Why? Because there are nerve or innervation to the heart that can speed up or slow down, and this is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is trying to pull up, increasing your heart rate, and the parasympathetic is trying to pull down, decreasing your heart rate, and you have a balance between those. If you are in a sympathetic situation, the sympathetic take the upper hand and heart rate increase. If you are in a parasympathetic situation, meaning rest, digest, it slow down the heart, so the parasympathetic take the upper hand, right? So both of them. Okay, like if I keep the door open and I ask one of you guys to push from outside and one push from inside, and you guys are equal, the door is opened, the door is closed, right? The same. If I ask one of you to push more, I give the upper hand to one of you, it will open it, right? If I give the upper hand to the other one, it will do the opposite, right? So we have balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is trying to pull up, parasympathetic is trying to pull down, and you are in the middle. This is the balance. If I wanted to increase the heart rate, I'll give the sympathetic the upper hand. If I wanted to decrease, I give the parasympathetic, and this is called the dual innervation. Dual innervation. Dual, double, sympathetic and parasympathetic, which is in certain organs, not all organs. Some organs have sympathetic only, some organs have parasympathetic only, but a lot of organs have the dual innervation. You have both of them, and they are in the balance. And you can give an upper hand to one of those depending on the situation. Now, the origin of sympathetic and parasympathetic, where do they come from? And you have to remember this. It goes if this is your brain and this is your spinal cord, okay? What's the first part of the spinal cord? of the spinal cord? The first 7 segments. Cervical. What's the next part? Thoracic. What's the next part? Lumbar. And what's the last part? Sacral. This is the origin of the sympathetic. And they call it thoracolumbar. Thoracolumbar. Okay? This is the origin of the parasympathetic. Okay, can you remember this? Craniosacral. This is the origin of the parasympathetic. Thoracolumbar. This is the origin of the sympathetic. Okay, remember that. So where is the origin of the sympathetic? Thoracolumbar. Means the thoracic and the lumbar segments, part of the spinal cord. About the parasympathetic, the origin is craniosacral. Thoracolumbar, craniosacral. Craniosacral is the origin of the parasympathetic. If you're talking about the sympathetic, let's say this is one of the nerves, not here, coming from thoracic or lumbar. Is it sympathetic and parasympathetic? Sympathetic. Okay, so it will go like this. The first nerve will leave the thoracic, let's say, and go like this. And there is a ganglia, and then the next part will go to the organ, let's say the heart. Okay? And you will see this in the lab if you didn't see it yet. Let's say it's like this. So one nerve come from thoracic or lumbar and go to a ganglia, okay, or synapse, and then the next come from the ganglia to the organ. There is nothing that goes thoracolumbar, sympathetic doesn't go from the spinal cord all the way to the organ. It goes in 2 steps. One before the ganglia, and the other one is after the ganglia. And the ganglia is right beside the spinal cord. Did you do the sympathetic chain ganglia? Did you do that model, the big one, green, that have an open spinal cord? Did you do that yet? Did you or not?
Or it's like the back of the spine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That have like pink, and yellow.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of you guys attend and some don't attend. No, we didn't do it. Okay. Okay, maybe we'll do it today. Anyway, when you do it, or if you did it already, you will see a chain like pink, yellow, pink, yellow, pink, yellow, pink, yellow. These are the ganglia of the sympathetic nervous system. It's called the sympathetic chain ganglia. And the ganglia is where one nerve starts and ends to the ganglia, and the other one will continue to the organ. Okay? It will be the same thing for the parasympathetic, but let's focus on this first. Right? So what did you notice here? The sympathetic chain is right beside the spinal cord. So if this is long or short, the preganglionic. And this, don't forget this. In the sympathetic nervous system, the preganglionic is short and the postganglionic is long. Why? Because the ganglia is right beside the spinal cord. So you just leave the spinal cord and you find the ganglia right beside it. So you run a little bit short. Okay? And then from there all the way to the organ. Like if we're talking about, this is my spinal cord that is in here, okay? And the ganglia is right beside it. From the ganglia all the way to the bladder, for example. Isn't it long? Right? So the preganglionic is short and the postganglionic is long, and this is exactly the opposite of the parasympathetic. And the parasympathetic goes like this. From the sacral, let's say this is the heart, and we're trying to send parasympathetic to the heart. The ganglia of the parasympathetic are very close to the organs, or sometimes inside the organ. Okay? So what do you think? Which one is long and which one is short? In the parasympathetic, the preganglionic is long or short? Long, and the postganglionic is short. Okay. So don't forget this. Okay, this is what we just talked about. You become more alert, metabolic rate increase to give you energy, digestive, urinary, reproductive function decrease, respiratory rate increase, heart rate increase, blood pressure increase, sweating increase, all common sense. Parasympathetic, the ganglia is too close or even within the target organ, so obviously the preganglionic will be long and the postganglionic will be short. What happened during the parasympathetic? Exactly the opposite of the sympathetic. You're resting, digesting, so you're not increase your alertness, you decrease your metabolic rate, you decrease your heart rate, you decrease your respiratory rate, you decrease your blood pressure, no sweating or less sweating. You divert the blood to the digestive and urinary tract rather than diverting the blood to the skeletal muscles. Which one do you need during the fight? Do you need to send the blood to your skeletal muscles or to your digestive system? Skeletal muscles. But during rest digest, which is the parasympathetic, you need to send the blood to the active organs at that time. What are the active organs during rest digest? Digestive system, urinary system, and maybe reproductive system. Okay. The third one is the enteric nervous system, which is the third division of the autonomic, and this is more of a local control. Okay? So this is for coordination of the digestive tract. The wall of the digestive tract is coordinated through this third division of the autonomic nervous system, which is called enteric, and enteric is coming from intestine. Enteric, intestine, enteric, or digestive tract in general. So this is the system that control or coordinate the digestive tract. When you said thoracolumbar, to be more specific, start from thoracolumbar. Don't forget this. And by the way, this can be a good question in the lecture and in the lab. In both of them. Okay, so don't forget this. Thoracolumbar versus craniosacral. Thoracolumbar, craniosacral. Thoracolumbar, craniosacral. Thoracolumbar is the origin of sympathetic. Craniosacral is the origin of the parasympathetic. Now, which part specifically of the thoracic and which part of the lumbar? All thoracic and the first two of the lumbar. So it's from T1 specifically to L2. Okay? So yes, I said thoracolumbar. It's from the thoracic and lumbar. Which part of the thoracic? All of them. But which part of the lumbar? The first two only. Starting from T1 until L2. What kind of ganglia do we have for the sympathetic nervous system? We have sympathetic chain ganglia that you either, if you're Tuesday, you saw that already. If you're Thursday, you will see it and you will understand what I'm talking about. You will see these chains of ganglia, pink, yellow, pink, yellow, pink, yellow on either side of the spinal cord. And this is pair of sympathetic chain ganglia. We have another unpaired that's called the collateral ganglia. And the collateral ganglia is basically like here, like anterior to the spinal cord. You don't see it in the lab, by the way. So just understand. They can't put it like ahead of or anterior to the spinal cord, but know that it's here. And it's not paired. So this is the spinal cord again. Sympathetic chain will be like this. You have pair of sympathetic chain ganglia. And you have one only. of collateral, anterior to the spinal cord. The third one is not even close to the spinal cord, so this is an exception, which is the suprarenal medulla. What's the suprarenal medulla? The suprarenal means supra. Renal means kidney, supra means above, which is the same as adrenal, there is no difference, which is the same as epinephric. Okay, ad or supra or epi, above. Renal, nephric, okay, is the same, which means the kidney. Okay, so suprarenal medulla is actually a modified, like one of these, but they become modified, they come together and make this. This is during embryonic development. They come together just like those, but they become a large gland above the kidney. And this is called the suprarenal medulla. So what's the suprarenal medulla? And we have one on the right kidney and one above the left kidney. And this is a modified sympathetic ganglia. It's not a ganglia anymore. But it used to be a ganglia. Ganglia come together, merged together, and came above the kidney and make the suprarenal medulla or medulla of the gland. And this is considered part or paired of the ganglia or the sympathetic system. So we have sympathetic, we have collateral, we have suprarenal. The sympathetic chain will give innervation to the body wall inside the thoracic cavity in head and limb. And this is the sympathetic chain ganglia. Did you see this model before? The one that have the cross section of the spinal cord? And we have the roots. Did you see this?
Yes.
There is one of them that will have, beside the dorsal root and the ventral root, you will see it making the spinal nerve and then giving the branches, which is the rami. And then you will see something, like you can see it from above. You see another ramus. This ramus will come and join something here. This is the sympathetic chain ganglia I was talking about. It doesn't look like this. You will see just a section of this. So see it next time and you will know what I'm talking about. It goes like this. Dorsal root, ventral root. The two roots come together to make the spinal nerve, which is mixed. And then it will split into two rami, ventral ramus and dorsal ramus, right? The ventral rami will join the sympathetic chain ganglia. See that next time you look at the model and you will see these white and gray rami that communicate between the ventral ramus from one side and the sympathetic chain from the other side. Collateral, we have, how many collateral ganglia do we have? How many chains? One or two? One. How many sympathetic chain ganglia? Two. How many suprarenal?
One. Wait, two.
Yes. How many kidneys do you have? So how many suprarenals do you have? Two. One above each kidney. And this will innervate the abdominopelvic cavity, organs in the abdominopelvic cavity, and this is for the collateral ganglia. These are the collateral ganglia. See how it is one. Compare this. This is pair, one on either side. This is the sympathetic chain ganglia, and this is the collateral ganglia. That's in front of the spinal cord, and it's only one. The suprarenal medulla is different. When we talked about this, it's all nerve, right? Preganglionic nerve, postganglionic nerve. So it's all wiring. It's all a nerve that starts from the spinal cord to the ganglia, from the ganglia to the organ. Yes, this is the case of sympathetic chain ganglia and collateral ganglia, but it's not the case of the suprarenal medulla. The suprarenal medulla, when the preganglionic come from the spinal cord to the suprarenal medulla, there is no postganglionic. Instead, the suprarenal medulla will send hormones. And these hormones are epinephrine and norepinephrine. Are we following? In sympathetic chain ganglia and collateral ganglia, you have preganglionic and postganglionic. Short, long, long, short, right? The third type of the sympathetic is So we have sympathetic chain ganglia, we have collateral. Both of those have preganglionic and postganglionic. When you come to the suprarenal medulla, which is a modified ganglia, it has a preganglionic. That's it. No postganglionic. What's the replacement for that? Hormones. And instead of having a postganglionic neuron like this, you will have hormones. What are these hormones? Epinephrine and norepinephrine. And epinephrine means above the nephron, which is adrenaline. There is no difference, by the way. When you see adrenaline, epinephrine, it's the same hormone. Old name and new name. So remember both of them. Adrenaline, epinephrine. Ad means above. Renalin or renal means kidney. Epinephrine. What's the epinephrine? Epi means above. Nephron means kidney. It's the same thing. Okay? Just an old name and new name. So adrenaline or epinephrine. The other one is noradrenaline, norepinephrine. Just put nor before and it will make the name. And obviously, epinephrine and norepinephrine are going to do the job of the postganglionic. Are we following so far? Any question? So here are the suprarenal medulla. This is the preganglionic. Go to the suprarenal, and we don't have postganglionic. Instead, it's going to release hormones. Sympathetic chain ganglia consists of a number of ganglia, three in the cervical region, 10 to 12 thoracic, 4 to 5 lumbar, 4 to 5 sacral, 1 coccygeal, and this is not the root. I told you that the root it starts from thoracic and lumbar. Yes, but thoracic, and it will make a ganglia here and here. So the location of the ganglia does not reflect the root or the origin. Are we following? So don't say, so the ganglia is in the cervical region, but you said it comes from the thoracic. Yes, I didn't say it's come from the cervical. It's just located beside it. Okay? So we have 3, 10, 12, 4, 5, 4, 5, 1. These are the ganglia. The postganglionic for the sympathetic will run through nerve number 3, 7, 9, 10. And you actually need to remember this. Okay, the postganglionic for the sympathetic follow 3, 7, 9, 10. 3, 7, 9, 10. This is postganglionic for the sympathetic. Okay, these are the cervical ganglia, these are the thoracic, and so on. From the collateral ganglia, the splanchnic nerve will form from the preganglionic fibers that go to the collateral ganglia. Okay, so the preganglionic nerves come together and make one big nerve that's called the splanchnic nerve, which is the preganglionic for the collateral. Suprarenal is a modified sympathetic chain and will secrete hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine. So this is epinephrine and norepinephrine, also known as, what's the other name for epinephrine? Adrenaline. And what's the other name for norepinephrine? Noradrenaline. Okay. Epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, this is the main one, 70 to 80%. Noradrenaline or norepinephrine is the other one. Norepinephrine, when it's released, it will go to the effectors, which is the smooth muscles of the blood vessels of the skin, for example, and it's going to constrict those. Though epinephrine and norepinephrine will lead to CNS activation, alertness. Now when we come to the neurotransmitter, we said there is a ganglia here, right? If you remember the ganglia or the synapse, one nerve will end and another nerve will start, right? And you have a gap in between. And you have to use a neurotransmitter in between, right? Okay, what type of neurotransmitter? It can be acetylcholine and it can be norepinephrine. Okay, if this synapse or ganglia, if it uses acetylcholine, you call it cholinergic synapse. Okay, cholinergic. If it uses adrenaline, you call it adrenergic. Okay, so is it a cholinergic or adrenergic synapse? Is it a cholinergic or adrenergic fibers? It depends on what type of chemical do you release. If you release acetylcholine, if you communicate through acetylcholine, I call it cholinergic. Cholinergic is coming from the second part of the name. Acetylcholine, cholinergic, acetylcholine, okay? And the other one is adrenergic, okay? So cholinergic, which use acetylcholine, is sympathetic and parasympathetic post-ganglionic, and parasympathetic except all except the post-sympathetic. So if you look at this picture here, if this is sympathetic or parasympathetic?
Sympathetic.
Where does the sympathetic originate from?
Oh, it's parasympathetic.
Is it craniosacral?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is parasympathetic. It uses acetylcholine here and acetylcholine here. Okay? How about this? Is it sympathetic or parasympathetic?
Sympathetic.
So it's using acetylcholine and norepinephrine. And how about this?
Parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic, it's using acetylcholine. So all of them use acetylcholine, everything, both sympathetic and parasympathetic, everything use acetylcholine, so it's all cholinergic except this. Okay, which is the post-synaptic sympathetic. Can we remember this? Presynaptic sympathetic, acetylcholine. Presynaptic parasympathetic, acetylcholine. Postsynaptic parasympathetic, acetylcholine. What's the remaining one? Postsynaptic sympathetic. This is the only exception that use norepinephrine. Can you remember this? We have preganglionic fibers, we have postganglionic fibers, right? We have sympathetic and we have parasympathetic. All of them use acetylcholine. The only one that use adrenaline, and you call it adrenergic, is the postganglionic sympathetic. Okay? Can we remember that? This is sympathetic, this is parasympathetic, and this is sympathetic. Preganglionic, sympathetic, postganglionic, sympathetic. Preganglionic, parasympathetic, postganglionic, parasympathetic. Only this is the one that use norepinephrine. Okay? Now norepinephrine and epinephrine are released and they go to the organ. Instead of having post-synaptic neuron in the suprarenal medulla, which is an exception, the norepinephrine and epinephrine will run and go react with receptors on the organs. These receptors can be alpha receptors and can be beta receptors. Alpha and beta receptors. These are the two types of adrenergic receptors that use noradrenaline more than adrenaline. And this will work through an activation of something called G protein. This is how they work on the receptors. So alpha is subdivided into alpha 1 and alpha 2. Alpha 1 is excitatory and alpha 2 is inhibitory. Okay? Are we following? We're almost done. We have adrenaline and noradrenaline, right? For adrenergic neurons. They go to the organ. Let's say this is the heart. There are alpha receptors and beta receptors. If it goes to alpha, react with alpha, what is the result? Depend on, is it alpha 1 or alpha 2? If it reacts with alpha 1, excitation will occur, stimulation will occur. If you react with alpha 2, inhibition will occur. So depending on what type of receptor, the action will be different. But are you talking about the same hormone? Yes, same hormone. It's the same one. Okay, it is epinephrine and norepinephrine, same hormone, but it does different actions. So here is the norepinephrine. Epinephrine go to the bronchi. What are you going to do with the bronchi? Tell me which receptor I'm going to stimulate, and I will tell you the action. If we're talking about alpha, is it alpha 1 or alpha 2? Alpha 1 is stimulatory, alpha 2 is inhibitory. When you come to a beta, and alpha in general are located in the on the blood vessels and other parts. We'll talk about this. But the beta is located in the skeletal muscle, lung, heart, and liver. And remember this. This is the location of the beta receptors. Skeletal muscles, lung, heart, and liver. And this is going to use the cyclic AMP. And we have 3 types. Beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. Beta 1 and 2 is the more important. Beta 1 will increase the metabolic activity. Beta 2 will relax the smooth muscles of the respiratory tract. Beta 3 will lead to lipolysis. Just one more thing. This is the last part, and we will stop here. We know some people use the inhalers, right? The albuterol, right? What does it do? Why would, if you have bronchial asthma, what's bronchial asthma first? What's happening to the bronchi? Trouble breathing, why? Constrict the bronchi? Yes, it's constriction of the bronchi. So why do you use this inhaler? To dilate. How to dilate? By this. So what is in here? What's albuterol? It's beta 2 agonist. It's beta 2 stimulant. So when you get this, albuterol will go in. It will react with the beta 2 receptors, relaxing the muscles. Did you get this? So what's this? This is a beta 2 agonist or analog or a stimulus. Agonist versus antagonist. This is agonist, okay? And we will stop here and continue next time.